Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. You are tuned into the quest for wedding film mastery part 8, Chromatic Conquests, hosted by Sony. I'd like to welcome back Amber and Garrette Baird. What's going on, guys?
Thanks so much for having us again, Derek. Same studio, different podcast, I guess is what we're gonna call it
There you
today.
go. The only thing that changes is the topic.
Yes.
Little
Awesome.
colder than it was last
Yes, a
time.
little
Starting to
colder,
get into the winter. We just got back from Chicago, so that's even colder. But
working on
yeah,
You guys
working
went from
on
cold to colder.
Yeah, what are we doing? You know? Had to
Well,
get it down.
Garrett's heating things up today. I swear, I feel like this is going to be this is like a Star Wars series. It's like, which one do you watch first? Do you watch them all in order? Do you watch
Oh,
them? Is there an order? I don't know. You guys might surprise us.
that's a fantastic question, and one that I have to think about, and it's generally on a case-by-case basis, Derek.
All right. Good to know. Well, I'll turn it over to you guys. I will remind our viewers, if you do have any questions, drop them into the YouTube chat and we'll make sure to get them answered for you. And Garrett, Amber, take it away.
Thank you so much, Derek. We
thanks, Derek.
really appreciate B&H and Sony hosting this for us. I think we haven't said it enough, or since the beginning, but it has always been a dream of ours to bring longer form education to wedding filmmaking, and we are so thankful for Sony and B&H to give us this opportunity. Because we're going in an hour on just color grading alone, and a lot of the times we don't get that luxury at conferences and stuff. So we're really thankful for Sony and B&H for the platform to be able to do this for you all, because there's so much that goes into it. And so many times whenever we shut our laptop after this, we're like, gosh darn it, we forgot to say this, we forgot to say that, we forgot to say that. So we already are brainstorming about what we can teach next, because there's so many things that we're excited about teaching for wedding filmmakers, because it's definitely something that's not as out there. So we really appreciate it.
Right, and I mean, you do anything for 20 plus years, you're gonna pick up a couple things, and so it's nice to be able to, a lot of these conferences that we teach at, we have an hour to teach everything, and so it's nice. Like today, we're gonna be teaching for about an hour on just basic color grading and correcting, and so it's a vast conversation that we're gonna try to cram into an hour.
Yeah, so I didn't even build a slide deck for this. I think that it's just like,
People need to see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this is just one that we're gonna go straight into Final Cut Pro, which, Garrett, if you want to go ahead and start like pulling that up and stuff, and then so a lot of what we talked about as far as the editing your final film, even on the shoot day, a lot of it is vibes. How many times have we said that, Garrett? And so, as much as you can have all of your technical things down, if you're not, let's say, catching the vibes that the couple is giving you, then you're not going to have the most happy client. So,
Hang on, I need to bring. I forgot something. I'm gonna bring it back because I want to show people something real quick. I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
well, the good thing is the dogs are over at the neighbors, so we won't have to stop and deal with them today. That's the good and the bad thing. But anyway, so color grading can tell so much and can tell the viewer so much about your story. It gives them an idea of what is going to happen, where you may be, and even just like dialing in a temperature can make the film speak to what you want to say. So all of the things that we've been talking about over the course of these, this is the eighth one, are basically layers of the cake, spices of the food, whatever you want to call it. We have so many different metaphors, but
The toppings on the pizza.
the more the more that you can understand and appreciate how each one of those things can get you dialed into your final film, the better and the easier it is going to be for you to get in the editing chair. So if you're already going into this, you have all your footage together and you are thinking about, well, what was the day like? What was the couple like? That'll give you a big clue into how you're going to go in with your grade.
Right, and there's a lot of moving parts. Another example is like race car. I was watching. I'm not into racing, but I was with a friend. Was it yesterday? And I was watching I guess it was the Grand Championship of Formula F1, which was really cool. And as I was watching it, they're talking about all these little things they do over the course of the race, over the course of designing the car, over the course of training. And each little thing on its own isn't a whole lot. But when you take all these little adjustments you've done and put them together, they all kind of mesh together and build something great and a super fast sports car. So color grading and color correction, shooting, audio, prep, all these things are like these little fine-tune adjustments you make that one by itself, if you didn't have that, wouldn't be super impactful. But the fact that you have more than one, you have all these different pieces to the recipe, to the car, whatever. When they come together, it turns into something beautiful. Now, let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen. Here we
You
go.
got this.
And share.
There you go.
All right. So the first thing before we even start grading, you need to have a base. What was it called in the scientific community? A control.
Control, yeah.
Control. So all of your monitors, whether it be on a Mac, PC, more than likely they come from the factory, not calibrated for color correcting and color editing. So the first thing you need to get, this is I think a little older one. This is the Spider 5 Pro. I think they have new ones now, but there's a couple of different brands. I have no loyalty over one over the other. This is the one I bought. But
Look on
it's,
B&H's website.
but,
I'm sure they have one with a
let
lot
me
of reviews.
stop sharing the screen just for a second.
Okay.
But if you can see it, it's this little puck device and it hangs over the back of your monitor and it installs some software and it calibrates the monitor the best it can to get as many colors represented, here we go, represented on your screen. So even though maybe you don't have the best screen, maybe you're on a budget and you have, maybe a lower price screen, it's still going to get you closer to seeing what is true color than not calibrating at all. Because most of the time, the calibration, when it comes from the factory, even Apple, it's oversaturated. There's too much contrast, and you want to see something that is like the as close to the pure representation of what you're going to deliver is. Now, mind you, once you get done with the coloring and once you get done calibrating, I mean, you're still sending it out to a million different people with a million kinds of different screens, but this is going to give you a good base, and that's where you need to start all of your projects, is make sure your screen is calibrated as close as possible. So these aren't that expensive. I think they're under $100, something like that. But yeah, that is a necessity.
And sometimes I think we've had someone ask us about our color grading and how do you know like if it's good whenever it goes out. It's like if we are using extremely highly calibrated monitors, that's what you tell your client. You're like, listen, my monitors are extremely highly calibrated. Yours are not.
I think one time we did
that before in a very nice way, but
yeah. And we had one client that was asking us why was the video so orange, and in this particular instance, it was because we were showing it at I forget which one, we were showing it at the venue on their projection system, and their projection projector color was off. And then somebody else asked me that same question again, why is it so orange? And the iPhone had the warm tone turned on.
Yeah, for nighttime.
Yeah, so you're gonna get it's gonna vary a lot,
Yeah.
but we're gonna try to get you as close as we can get.
But as long as it is good on your end and you are confident and you can say, this is a calibrated monitor. There we go. Now, I mean, if you're talking about, this is for wedding films. We are not talking about broadcast. That's a different subject, different video.
Right.
So this is for wedding films or documentary films that you're putting out, or whatever kind of films. But this is not broadcast.
Right. So I am less of a technical colorist. I color emotionally. So I don't pull up the let's see, let's go over here to like the video scopes. I do eventually.
Maybe you should just walk them through what those are, like the video scopes.
Well, this
You
is,
will later. Sorry,
I
I'm
will,
getting
yeah,
ahead.
get ahead. But I'm, you're getting back at me, I get
A
it.
little bit.
So we're using Final Cut Pro today, and the tools I want to show you are very basic tools. Most of your editing programs are going to have it, and maybe even have more. There's a new tool they just came out with on the latest release of Final Cut, which is a magnetic mask. I haven't had the chance to use it too much, but I did play around with it, and it looks pretty cool. So it's an AI way of selecting somebody's face, or a group of people, or maybe the rings in the video, and the AI figures out that this is the mask you want to use, and it'll actually track the motion.
Hold on, are you kidding me?
Nope.
That's like one of the hardest things that you do.
Yep. Really.
So your job is getting easier and easier.
Absolutely.
What are we gonna do with you?
Well, I can't. Hopefully, they won't make it too easy.
Yeah.
And give me just a second, because there we
There
go.
it is.
Okay, it's over there. So if you can, most cameras today, no matter what brand you're on, we're with Sony. So Sony has a color profile called Log, S-Log 3. It's a very flat picture profile, so you're not going to see like a rich, it almost kind of looks black and white on the day of, but that's going to be the best way to get as much information into the camera as you possibly can, so you can really see later, the broad dynamic range. When you turn that off, you lose a lot of dynamic range, especially in the highlights, across all cameras. Now there's a second profile. What's it called? I don't use it much. That's why I forget.
Creative.
Um,
No, it's
oh no, oh no. Cinetone?
Cinetone.
Cinetone. Yeah, like Cinetone. So Cinetone is like, it's not quite S-Log, but it's like a graded S-Log, more for filmic look. So the blacks aren't going to be as crushed as not using it at all. The highlights aren't going to be as blown out as not using it at all. And so it's a little easier to color grade, so you don't have to do as much work in post-production.
So maybe for somebody who's not as skilled, they should
Right.
start with that setting tone
Mhm.
before they're just dive into the deep end of log. If you're, like, we need to tell them to practice before the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You
Practice,
got it.
practice S-Log or Cinetone before you go and film the day.
Right. So, this clip here, this is one of our staples that we usually, during the ceremony, I'll be on a motion controlled slider, and I'll get something like this in the back of the ceremony. And usually I save a shot like this for if there's a lot of, beauty, like here we have beautiful flowers, but you can immediately see that there's absolutely almost no contrast, and we needed to fix that. So one of the first things that I like starting with is I'll add color wheels to it, and then I'll also add color curves. Now, if you go to the color wheels, and like I said, both all of your editing software is going to have curves, it's going to have color wheels, it's going to have all of these tools, and they may call them different things, but for the most part, color wheels and color curves, that's a staple industry standard. They should be called that in your editing software. The first thing you're going to be tempted to do is say, oh, there's not much color, so I'm just going to bring the color up on everything. Well, I mean, my white balance is a little off, but if we adjusted that, you could probably make that work, but that's not ideal. It's passable, it's okay, but it's probably not ideal. So we're going to reset the color there. And one of the first things I like to do is, this is a little cheat, but in Final Cut, there is an option called balance color and also enhance light and color. And it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it's horrible. So let's just try balance color and see what it comes up with. Okay, that's probably a little bit better. And if we boost those colors again, you can see it's not as yellow as it was before. So that actually did a pretty good job. So we're going to leave that there for now.
So I do want to I'm sorry, I just cut you off, but you're kind of working on a handicapped here, because usually he uses a monitor that's this big and plus has a reference monitor. So on the laptop today, that's a little bit of something that's more difficult today for you.
And a quick tip, if you are looking at getting a dual monitor setup, I know, like, I have an iMac as my reference monitor, and then I have a 21 by 9. It's a gaming monitor, and I wouldn't use it to color grade on because the colors are kind of iffy. But I use that for my timeline. So beneath my iMac, I have this very large monitor, but it's large and it's not like a 55-inch TV. It's like I think it's it's like 40 some inches wide, but it's only about
Computer
this
monitor.
tall. It's a computer monitor, so I can lay out my timeline and my angles, my video scopes, all on that monitor, and still have plenty of space. And that monitor isn't a very expensive monitor. I forget what I paid for it, but those are gaming monitors, and even you can get. Oh, and then one I have is curved, so it really helps navigate when you have a screen that big. Okay, I digress.
Yeah, so you're working a little bit at a disadvantage today.
Right,
with
I'm on this tiny little screen, right?
Sorry, okay, back into your flow.
Right. So the second we just did the balance color. Now there's another option called enhance light and color, and we're just going to see what happens there. It's going to AI analyze it and see what it comes up with. Not too shabby. Let's turn it off, back on. Yeah, I can live with that. So you see, we're already getting to a spot where it's more palatable as an image than it was. Let's go back and turn off what we. I'm sorry. Where's it at? The tools for Zoom keep covering my tools for Final Cut, so I gotta keep moving it
There you
around.
go.
There we go. Okay. So let's go and let's turn off what we've done so far, and you can see we're already at a much nicer spot. Now, I don't particularly in this image. I like it. I like the color palette, but what's throwing me off? Let me zoom in here. Is this lady right here in the orange? I'm not a fan of that. That's just. I mean, I'm nitpicking, but in all of this, we have some blues and greens and some different shades of whites. That the blue fits the color palette because we have the blue in the bridesmaids. We have some blue in the runner here, but this orange is it's just distracting. So there's a couple ways I can do that. Let me zoom back into her.
Yeah, everybody else matches the color palette except for that one.
You didn't get the memo.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that one. It was a nice wedding and caramel.
So
Hotel Carmichael.
what we can do is we're going to add another adjustment, and we are going to choose the hue and saturation curves. Yeah, so saturation. So what we can do is if we want to just eyeball it, which you do this long enough and you're able to eyeball a lot of things, and rather than be so technical, you just know your gear, you know the coloring, you know how it works. So I'm just going to try to eyeball it real quick. I'm going to put a little node there, one there. Then we're just going to try to pull down that orange, and you can see just that orange. But now, if you notice, look at the faces of the bridesmaids. When I pull that orange down, it's also I'm losing color tone in their faces. So we can just move this over a little bit to maybe it won't grab a hold of those red. Still doing it. So we are going to add a mask. Now mask. Oh, we could teach a whole thing. Just masks are great. Learn how to use masks. It's going to save you. It's going to make your image.
Maybe we should. Okay, I'm gonna write that down as a whole class that we do. Again.
That's a great idea.
Okay, because we also use masking for like removing okay, yeah. What's up?
I was checking the power supply on the
Oh, okay.
thing. My laptop is saying it's not plugged in. Pause.
Okay, well, you keep going. You keep
Could
going.
you plug that in somewhere for me? I plugged it into the laptop. I forgot to plug it into power. All right, so what we're going to do is a mask. So we want to kind of pull some of her color out so she's not as obtrusive in for what our people are seeing. So let's pull that down. Oh, that's probably good. And we can actually, if it's too bright, we can actually change the luma here, and we can bring. That was too much. I didn't put one in. Let's put one here, and now we can just drag that, and it's gonna. I'm still selecting too much. Just move that over. And it'll pull that down just a little bit. Okay, so now we like where the dress is at. This is before, this is after, but you can see I'm
Wow.
losing a lot of color information from the reds and orange tones
Yeah.
by doing that. So we are going to use a mask. So right here on the top right, there's a little, we're going to add a shape mask. And let's zoom back out so I can see what's going on. I'm going to make that a lot smaller.
So you're gonna make it small enough to put over her dress?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to do any of this either, mainly because I don't want to learn.
It's not sexy fun.
Well,
Like,
this is stuff that, you know, we have our roles.
let's bring it down even further. And you can have this is a shape mask, but you can draw a mask. The new magnetic mask would isolate that very well. I don't want to demo it for you because I haven't used it but one time just for kicks and giggles, so I don't want to do a bad demo of it. I've heard it works really well. So now, as you can see, this outside line is your feathering. So we definitely want to try to get it even smaller so we're not in the way of,
The bridesmaid.
we don't want the bridesmaid to lose the color in her face.
Yeah, because it makes them kind of look sick, like gray.
Yeah, they don't have any color, which happens a lot with bridesmaids. If they drink the night before, then don't eat the next morning, they show up looking kind of pale. So now we have before and after, and we're only affecting the color of that dress. So now let's fit to screen, and then we'll turn that back on. Let me hide the. So here's what we started with, very bland and blah. And there's what we ended up with. Now we can take this another step further. And I want to draw the attention. I want my viewers to their view to be drawn towards the bride and groom. I mean, they're obviously going to, but in some shots you don't have, like we have leading lines right now leading up to the bride and groom, both on the left and the right of the flowers, the aisle. Those are just like leading lines are perfect to use. And some you may not have that, so but you still want to pull people's attention to where you want them to be focused. So we're going to add another. Let's do a color wheels this time. And before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and add a shape mask. And we're going to go down here where the bride and groom is at, make this a little smaller. And now here's where it gets tricky, because what I want to do is I want the sides, I want to add a vignette. But what we don't want to do is, whoops, undo, let's go to the outside. We don't want that. Looks bad. If you ever use one of those apps, my mom sends me apps. She takes pictures that I put online, and then she uses her app and she puts this beautiful white vignette and writes letters on it. It's very loving, and I appreciate it, Mom. But that's not the look we're going for.
It's a very 80s look, Garrett.
It was. So
that was when she was having fun with photography.
it looks something like that.
Oh, it looks exactly like that. We love you.
Yes, love you, Mom. So we want to pull their attention towards the front more. So rather than bringing down the global exposure, we're going to bring down just the highlights at first.
Okay, so you have the mask and you're bringing down the highlights first.
Right.
Okay.
And what I did just now, I can turn
highlights on the outside.
We're working on the highlights on the outside.
Okay.
So we're bringing that down. So let me start over. So the mask is still there. I just turned it off so I could see what it's doing, see what the color is doing. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to turn off the indicator showing me the mask. The mask is still there. So as you can see, if I go down too much, awful. We want to bring it up to where there's really almost no noticeable, discernible difference. We don't want to see a circle around there. You don't want to see that. So that looks pretty good. And then we can bring maybe the midtones down just a little bit. And see, right, if you look right here, we're starting to get a line right there. So we don't want that line, so we're going to bring that back up a little bit. Now that is looking pretty good. Let's just give the midtones a little bit of a boost on the color. And if you're not aware, all of your skin tones are going to live in the mids. So the highs not going to affect it as much. The highlights not going to affect it as much, and the shadows, it's not going to affect your skin tones as much, but all of your midtones, all of your skin tones live in that middle area. So once I have a pretty decent look to it, Switch back here. Yeah, I'm liking that. So most of the time, all the time, I eyeball it first. I edit with my emotions. How do I want it to look?
With your
How do I
heart.
want it to feel? I edit with my heart. Once I have this part of it done, then I'm going to open up my video scopes and I'm going to choose, let's see, let's do the yes, the waveform. So if you're doing just standard if you're standard just doing standard 4K and you're not doing the what's it called, the
UHD?
yes, but it's the
Oh,
HDR. If you're
HDR.
not doing HDR, your highlights need to stop around 100 on this Luma scale here. So this is okay because what's clipping at 100 right there? Let me zoom
light balls?
in. Yes.
Balls of light, okay.
So what's clipping is this chandelier. So, I mean, that's okay. I don't mind that so much. They're looking pretty good. If I lower it a little bit, if I try to get everything under 100, it's gonna get too dark. Actually, I'm in my shape mask, so let me go back to,
Ooh, okay, so is it confusing to try and just remember to stay out of your shape mask?
right, so I haven't switched back to my previous,
The full,
right. So the color wheels that I'm on now is the mask. That's the one we just used to adjust, and the outside
The
vignette and
vignette.
kind of give it a vignette. So we are going to add another, and you can add as many of these as you want.
inside of, are you still in the mask?
No, well, I
Oh.
am right now, but I'm getting ready to add
Oh, okay.
another one that is not.
Okay.
So I wanted to show you if I try to bring the highlight, if I let's say, well, as a new colorist, like I want everything, I don't want any of my highlights to be blown out, even the light fixtures. If I try to bring all that down beneath 100, the rest of the picture suffers because it loses that exposure. So
So those bulbs look like they were just, there's no information there.
right.
Okay, so there's not really a use to even try to get those bulbs.
The only use would be is like if you're a purist and like I've had some like music video stuff that I do and that you want everything to be to not clip. So everything is like it's like a painting. There's no blown
Right,
out
right, right,
highlights.
right.
On a wedding day, that's without
Almost
having
impossible.
control of the lighting, without bringing your own lighting, it's nearly impossible. So we are going to actually we could bring that up a little bit so her dress is a little high, is a little better, more exposed. And let me zoom in to our bride
That
and
was my
groom.
stomach, by the way. Did you hear
I
it?
didn't. So right now we can see that you see his jacket has some noise in it. And I can remove that very easily with the built-in noise reduction tools in Final Cut. And then if it's real tough noise and I'm having like, let's say it was super dark and I had, or maybe I have the wrong settings. Maybe I was at, I don't know, 12,800 ISO and it was just too noisy. There's a program called Neat Video. It has a plugin for Final Cut, plugin for I think most of the major editors, and then there's also standalone. And yes, it takes so long. It's very slow. It takes a long time to analyze and get rid of the noise, but it's the best noise reduction tool that I've seen. Also, Topaz Labs is another one I use. But in the meantime,
Neat Video's been out since I feel like we started.
right.
Or at least we started with Sony cameras for
Right.
sure.
So the first thing I can do is this zero line is black. So anything that falls beneath this zero is again it's like what we said earlier. It's like being having your highlights blown out, but it's the blacks blown out, which that's fine.
Crushed.
We're used to seeing that in everyday life. The blacks are there's no information there. We don't care what's in there. So normally what I typically like to do is grab my little shadow exposure here, and I bring everything down to where it's hitting that line. So I don't want to lose all of the information, but let's zoom out to see what is. So you see these lines here, this exposure going way down. This is probably this guy's jacket over here on the right. And the ones over here on the left is probably this guy's jacket over here on the left. So that doesn't really concern me that there's nothing there that I've kind of crushed the black, so to
You
speak.
don't even really want the viewer to see that.
Right, exactly. So, but let's say I don't want to do, let's say that's too much. I just wanted to adjust his jacket on the groom because, right now let's zoom in to the person sitting back here. And that jacket is already black enough. I really don't want to crush the blacks on that. So in this scenario, I would again use actually these color wheels right here, and we are going to add another shape mask.
Add another mask. Is that like your fix it for everything?
Basically, yeah, it really is.
I got that mask. I got that B-roll. I got that mask.
I got you. And then we're gonna bring this way down. And it'll probably, and what we're gonna do, what we're getting ready to do is really enrich the picture. It's really gonna kick it up a notch. Now let's zoom back in to 200%. Oh, let's go to 300%, 400%. So obviously this, we are going to add, let's see, what is it? Color curves. So this is going to give you a little more control over what's going on without just having one slider to change your exposure on your luma or on your shadows. Now we're going to use this luma here, and we're going to protect our skin tone is pretty nice. So if you can think of this line here as our color wheels, this would be the shadows, this is the highlights, and this is your midtones. So I could just crush the blacks like this, but it's going to affect everything. And then you can see this line right here. It's also going to affect your skin tone. So we don't want that. We want to protect our skin tones. Let's reset that. I'm going to put a little node. Sorry, it's called a control point. Put a control point there. And now when I slide this down to crush his blacks a little bit, it's only going to affect all of the lower side, the shadows. And the same way with the highlights, you can do the same thing. If, let's say, I think her dress is too bright, I can do the same thing, protect our skin tones, and then I can just bring that down or over.
Do you have a clip where we really messed up the color or the white balance?
White balance.
I mean, we're so perfect. We never
Actually,
do
I do.
Okay.
So now let me hide the scope so I can actually see what we're doing. So now we have something that I can actually live with. Like I actually,
You like that one?
I do like that. So it's a really wide shot. Our couple are really, really tiny up there, but because of the color grading we've done, and we've focused their attention, the viewer's attention towards the front, like they wouldn't be looking there anyways, but it does a better job of getting their attention there quicker.
Because these clips are fairly short.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are only a few seconds each. So whenever you have a clip that's a couple seconds, you want them to see what you want that you're showing them what you want to see.
Right.
Want them to see.
And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. This is why when you are shooting with a team and you're shooting, especially like the ceremony or the reception, that you all are on the same page with your white balance. Yeah, it is much easier to correct with all the new Sony, the 10-bit. And when you're able to record at a much higher bit rate, the color correction, the white balance correction is so much easier than it used to be on the 8-bit. But that just means more issues for you in post-production, and you're going to have to go through, like on this ceremony, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras rolling. So if we were all doing our own thing and had different white balance, yes, I could fix it, but it's going to take me a while to go through 4 camera angles and make them all match with the white balance. So even if you're all wrong, the same way, even if you, let's say, we're just like, oh, it's happening right now, we got to switch it, you don't have time to dial it, put up a gray card and then dial in your white balance. We just say, okay, let's just do tungsten. Everybody do tungsten. And because there was a lot of tungsten, these chandeliers were a lot of warm colors to it. If you all are at least wrong the same way, when you go to fix it later in post, it's easier because once you do one, you can kind of copy and paste those settings to the next camera. And if you use the same brand of camera and even the same model is even better, it's going to copy and paste those settings and it's going to be done real quick.
One thing that you don't want to do is use auto white balance though, because that means every single clip, when you are pointed one way, if you point another way in the same room, your white balance is changed. So then that means you have to color that clip differently as the one before it. And so then you're just making a lot more work for yourself. Ask us how we know.
Yes, exactly.
That's really all of these things is ask us how we know this
Yep.
because we've done it before.
And like on the newer Sony bodies, they have a feature called shockless white balance, so you can adjust like how quickly the white balance changes.
Oh, that's nice.
So if for some reason, again, I don't suggest using auto white balance for shooting video, but for some reason you want to, I know a problem I ran into several years ago is I had a lockdown shot in the back that was unmanned. And for whatever reason, I had it set to auto white balance, and all the groomsmen and people in the wedding party were wearing blue suits. So in the back, when somebody would come back around and walk in front of the camera frame would be filled with blue for a couple seconds, and so it would auto adjust to that blue tone. So that means that every time the person walked by and then they got off screen for a few seconds, my entire frame of the wedding was heavily, it was orange because it was trying to compensate for all the blue that was had. And so yes, I could fix it, but again, it's just more stuff that you have to do in post, and it's more time. Time is money. You don't want to be sitting there all day. So try to get it right in camera as much as you can.
What a mess. I don't remember that. It affected you more than me.
Right. So I know, I'm sure a lot of you are banging on your monitor right now on the keyboard, like, tell us about LUTs. So real quick, I'm going to show you. I don't use LUTs too terribly much. It's very, I don't know. I just don't use it. I like kind of just moving the sliders around and playing with the color wheels to get a unique style and a unique color. But if you want to, and sometimes when I actually do use LUTs, let's see, lookup tables.
So what is a LUT?
Hang on, custom LUT. Okay, so now I pasted a LUT on here, and this isn't one I use.
What
I
is
just
a LUT?
pulled up this one's called Dunkirk. So if
a
I
movie.
just turn it on all the way, you can automatically see that's Dunkirk, the movie, if you've seen it. But most LUTs are made to apply to a log. So you would want to, if everything is perfect in the world and you got all of your white balance perfect, you have it exposed perfectly. Most LUTs want you to expose like one stop over what you normally would. Ask us how I know that.
Mm.
What was I saying? I forgot.
I don't know. What is a LUT?
So it's going to add, I really don't know.
Is it like a pre-made color grading?
The easiest way, yeah, the easiest way is people are going to hate me for saying this, but it's kind of like an Instagram filter, but a lot more technical than that.
Okay, so it's like what photographers use, presets. Like a preset.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
the preset. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I know what it is when I'm doing this for the audience, by the way. I do know what a LUT is.
So let me turn off all of these effects. Hold on a second. Let me turn off. I guess I have to do them one by one and show you what it would look like with just the LUT on there. So that doesn't look quite as good, right? It looks kind of like matrixy. But here's how I use LUT. So let me turn all these back on. And you'll find a LUT. There's free ones out there. If you're wanting a LUT, let's say like there's a corporate job we just wrapped up, and I want it to just be a clean, perfectly colored image and Rec 709, and I don't want any fancy like
Styles or
styles. I
anything?
just want it to look like a clean, like a Netflix documentary interview. Sony has free LUTs on their website that you can apply to your footage, your S-Log footage, and it even tells you for their LUTs how you should expose it and how to use the zebras and stuff to make sure you get that perfect exposure. But
I didn't know that.
Yep,
That's
and
nice.
those are all free. There's a ton more free ones. There's a lot of really good ones you can purchase. I haven't bought any in a long time, but let's take this LUT off. Here's my color grade. So let's just say for kicks and giggles, I want to add a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of something to it that just is a little more than just a basic color grade. So I will add a LUT to it, and then I will just start pulling the LUT in until I see just a little bit of that color being affected. So now I'm only applied 49% of the LUT. So if I turn it off, you can see there's definitely a
yeah.
difference. And so that is, and there's all kinds of different ones for different looks. Let's go to another one. Let's do this one's Mad Max. Supposed to be from the movie Mad Max. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, yep, that's pretty much it. And that's way, way too hot. So we turn that way back down. So that's going to warm it up a little bit, but this particular LUT immediately blows out the highlights. So that
Because
one's,
so it's just like the trope of if it's a hot place in a desert, your highlights are blown
yeah,
out.
right.
You know, like that's just the trope of us using our tools to show a feeling. You know, so like we used to do a lot of weddings where they were very country coded, let's
Mhm.
say. So cowboy boots, barns, lots of it. So we used to have basically a LUT before LUTs were a thing.
Yeah.
We called it country yellow.
Yep.
Because just adding a little bit of yellow back into it made it look a little bit more like a country music video.
Mhm.
And those couples loved it.
It was a little warmer, a little more,
warmer than you probably would grade this. Warmer than
Right.
you would grade this one is what we'd call country yellow. It wasn't even yellow, it was just like a little warm. So those are the types of things that you can do whenever you're thinking about, you know, the vibe of the event, right? As they were doing a barn wedding, country yellow. This is a little more of, you want a
It's a
little
little-
more of a crisp,
it's a little more posh, a little more
crisp.
like there's a lot of whites and a lot
Yeah.
of cream. So I don't like, I could change the temperature and just warm it up a little bit, but that immediately looks, no, I don't like that at all. It doesn't fit. In fact, blue, that's too much blue. So I think where we had it was fine.
Yeah.
But you can change the temperature. You can change the temperature in just the highlights if you just want, instead of changing the temperature down here where you can go left or right and do a vast change, you can just go to your midtones and pull the color value away from blue a little bit, and you can see those colors start to warm up a little bit.
So you pull it away
Pull it away from the color you're
that
trying
you
to
think it's in it.
offset.
Okay.
Right.
So like if it was full of orange in there, let's say it was, so you would pull it away from like
Right.
the red.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm. And actually, I have a sample of that while we're talking.
Perfect.
Um,
For all those Canon users. Just kidding.
so here's the first, this is just the raw footage from the first dance. Let's find a good shot here. When they started going crazy. Oh, that was mom and the
Sister.
sister crying. So she was like, oh, there we go. I keep skipping it. Let me zoom in. There we go. So, and that's something else too. When you're shooting the first dances and the first look, if you have more than one shooter, if you have 2, 3 shooters, don't everybody shoot the first look. Have 1 or 2 people on the first look and then have reaction shots, because reaction shots of little sis crying about her big sister getting married and mom appreciating the first dance with her husband and her little baby girl, you know, those are just priceless tear jerking moments. So let's try before.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. So you can see right now before doing anything that there's a lot of like magenta and purple going on. And
In
that,
napkin tones?
yes,
Okay.
and that's due to, we do have lights on the dance floor for the first dances, but the lights are like lasered in on where they're dancing. So we're not blasting the whole room with light. So there's not a lot of our light falling on people on the sides, because we want to maintain, we don't want to blow away all the ambiance of the lights. And this is at the reception. The dance, the lights from the DJ or from the live band were purple, so we have some purple, and it's not the worst thing in the world. If I pull it up, you can see it's really a lot of magenta and
Okay.
purple.
That was, yeah, it was harder to see whenever it was, okay, so,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean,
do that.
it's there, but
Yeah,
you know that I really don't have a problem with that sometimes, because that is the way it was. Like, that's what they paid for.
Yeah.
They hired these people to do all these lights and to try and make it look perfect skin tone. If that's your thing and that you really want to bear down on that and make sure the skin tone looks perfect, even in the middle of purple and blue lights, go for it. You can do it. However, it's not a huge issue for me. So we're gonna,
So can I say, like, maybe if you were like making a teaser for Instagram and this one clip you wanted in there,
right,
you would probably try to make that look perfect.
yeah,
Because it's not with all of the other stuff from the reception, because that's a beautiful clip to use for a highlight.
right.
So if you were using that for a short highlight and you didn't know, like, oh, this is the reception and there are purple lights, then you would probably try to make more of a effort to fix the skin tone. So it's like, why would you even? So because we're very much like, if they have lasers on them, they have lasers on them. If they have red and blue lights, that's not like, we have red and blue lights. You're going to be red and blue. So, but it does become an issue when you have things like that.
Right, and you may be tempted. I think this was Amber's shot, and we had two lights, one on opposite sides of the dance floor, and one of us was probably near one of the light stands. We could have seen what was going on, like, oh, mom's crying or the sister's crying, and just grabbed the light stand and turned it and put light on them, so it would look better technically. But soon as you throw a light on them, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm not crying. What are you talking about? Nothing's going on." Like, it's gonna really pull them out of the
Yeah.
moment. So you really
Usually
don't
as
want to
soon
do
as they
that.
see us, as soon as they notice that we've caught on, they're
Yeah.
like,
Zoom
no,
in
not
just a
gonna do
little bit.
that.
So let me try using the balance color, see what that does for us. It got rid of the
green.
purple, but it it made it green. And then let's stack on top of that enhance light and color. So yeah, this is an example of where I'm not thrilled with it at all. I don't like anything that just happened. So we're gonna undo that. Um, and we are going to, let's see, let's try just enhance light and color without balancing the color. That's actually not terrible.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not, there's a little orange, and a little purple going on. So now if we want to remove that purple, there's a couple ways we can do it. We can add the color wheels, and we can go down to our tint and just pull it away from the purple. But you can see it's turning it's turning the shoulders orange. So that's probably not going to work. Some cases it does work. Now let's try a little bit more advanced. We're going to go to hue and saturation curves. Now before, the last time I did this, I selected a control point here, and then like here, and then put another one here, then try to pull down. That didn't quite get it. So let's come over here. It's not quite grabbing a hold of it. It is a little bit, but it's pulling color, so that's not quite gonna work either. So what I'm gonna do is use the eyedropper, and I'm gonna select the color I wanna adjust. So I'm gonna click and pull, and then it automatically sets up those control points. So now it should be right on. So it is. See that? It just comes right on. That was me trying to eyeball it versus letting the software do what it was made to do. So now we can pull that down a little bit, and
Okay, that was unbelievable. That was cool. I did not know that it could do that.
then if we turn that off, you can see it.
Yeah.
Yep. And so the next step in this is it did pull the purple out, but it also pulled out some color around their faces.
Yeah.
So I am going to probably just color wheels. I can fix most anything with color wheels and mask. My therapist says masking's not good, but in this case, it works pretty good. So we're gonna zoom in back to her face. Let's zoom in a little tighter.
Mom, and we want to make her look good.
Yeah. So
You always make mom look the best.
all of our skin tones are here in the mids, and if I just pull it up, you can see we just get purple again. So if we pull it up and give her some color, and then what we said earlier about taking this adjustment
Away from the color.
away from the, so purple's here, so we want
Mhm.
to kind of go towards the green. But if we go too far,
Alien.
yep, alien. So let's just, and I gotta be real with you. I color grade and I edit in an emotional way, and I don't have um the technical, I I don't care about how technically perfect it is. I care about how it looks and how the image makes me feel. And that's why I sometimes will just play with the colors until I get something that makes me feel the way I want to feel. What I don't want to happen is I don't want mom to look at her, because we're all our worst critics. Like when you see yourself on a picture that you didn't have control over. Like I hate letting other people take my picture because I know how to what height the camera needs to be. I know how I need to be angled. But if somebody is just out taking selfies and then I'm like, oh man, the first thing I look at is myself because I'm a narcissist, right?
We
No,
all are, I
we
think.
we all. So the first thing mom's gonna do, I mean, she's gonna see her daughter crying, but then she's gonna look at herself, and if she looks like if she looks all purpley, she's gonna be like, oh, what happened there? So we want mom to look really good. So we're gonna bring that saturation back up, and then we're gonna pull that away, and you can already see that we do have some green going on over here. So we might close that down, because here's where it gets hard, because the lighting on the left side of her face is different than the lighting on the right side of her face. So now let's
Oh.
do the before and after here. Yeah, so there's like, she looks kind of sickly. And then
Oh,
we add it
wow.
back. So we have
Wow.
this yellow. So the next step is what we just did with the purple, we're gonna go back and do with the yellow, and it may involve a mask. Let's use our eyedropper, and let's find
Oh, right on her nose. Yeah, that
right on her
bridge.
nose. So now we should be able to pull that down. And if that doesn't work, which it is working a little bit, but then it works too good and all the color goes away, you can change the hue. I'm gonna click and drag right there, and then, oop, no, too much. Right about there. So if this was my film,
This is your phone.
it is my film,
One
actually, yeah,
clip.
it's our film, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to move on to the next clip because we're slowly, quickly running out of time.
7 minutes.
But a couple of things I need to work on this clip
What else would you work on? Yeah, that's
is
a good
I would
question.
get rid of this yellow in her hair right here, this
Okay.
greenish yellow here, and try to get this greenish yellow off of her face here, because that is a little bit much for me. I don't care for that too much.
Okay.
Let's do a before and after,
Oh,
so you can see.
so you would take that green and right at the part of her hair, isn't it?
Yep,
Yeah.
and it's a light hitting it, so
Yeah.
yeah, so
That's how deep you can get.
and that's just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So
So do you have one that's like, oh, that's maybe overexposed? No.
there was
Oh,
one.
her walking down the aisle.
Right, that's what I wanted to show. That's the one. Hang on just a second. Let's find her dad. All right, so here's them walking down the aisle. Now, this, I think, let's see if we get lucky, and if the other clip we worked on in the beginning, which is from the same wedding, if I got my color balance even close to the one from the back of the of me shooting them coming down the aisle. Now I did a command copy, so that copied all of my settings from that clip, and then we're going to come down to where they're walking down the aisle, and I'm going to Shift Command V for pace, and I'm going to choose which settings I want to um, adjust. Let's just try all of them and see what happens. Not Not too shabby. The blacks are a little crushed. Skin tone needs a little work. One of the biggest things that
Is he
stands out to
winking
me,
there? That was cute.
is he?
I think so. Maybe not.
I bet he was. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
One of the things that really stand out to me in this shot is all the blue that is coming through the window. So we have tungsten inside the building, and then we have this blue coming through the back. So once again, we can use a mask, or let's just try to add a hue saturation curves, and we're going to grab that blue and see if we can just pull it out. Make it a little wider. And you can see that blue
Oh, yeah.
just pulls out.
That's crazy.
And then if we want to warm it up a little bit, we could change our hue and just bring in a little bit of warmth to it, maybe.
Kind of balancing the outside and outdoor and indoor light.
Right.
So like if you were on a film set, you would have light coming inside of that window the same color temperature as your indoor light. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't have that luxury because there's just two of us at this wedding.
Right. So you can see just that little bit of adjustment. This is
Mhm.
before, and that's after. So just
Let me see the before,
before,
after.
after.
Okay, it is very subtle. That one's subtle.
It's very subtle, but it's things like that that make your film look a little more cinematic, a little more professional, a little more polished.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want that, but
Yeah.
and then what I would try to do on this particular shot is use the vignette like we did before, but instead, okay.
You got 3 minutes.
Oh no.
MacGruber. 3 minutes, MacGruber.
3 minutes MacGruber. Inside. We're gonna add a shape mask. Actually, nope, that was already on there. So let's add another one. Color wheels. And we'll add a shape mask. Zoom in.
He was a cool guy. He was very much a. Can't remember what he does.
Lose a little bit of information in the window behind it, but I don't mind so much. Bring down.
I feel like sometimes it makes them look angelic, like even if it's like a little glowy behind them.
So one thing I like to do a lot is if their skin's looking a little flat, I like to grab my midtones and just kind of bring those down, and it gives
Oh.
the color a little more richness. Of course, when I bring that down, look at his suit, you're losing that in the suit. So you might want to bring up your blacks a little bit and then bring that down. And then her dress is white, so we want to add a little blue to that, but we only want to add it to the dress and not we just took blue out of the picture. Now we're going to put it back in, but only on her dress. So we're going to grab the
Another
highlights. Right.
Ah,
No.
no, just highlights.
It's
Okay.
because we're still working inside.
Oh,
that.
you're still working inside
So,
of that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're just going to pull, again, the color we're trying to
Get rid of
get rid of is yellow
Okay.
and some red. So we're just going to grab this and we're going to pull that over, and you can see her dress. If I go too
Oh,
far, her
yeah.
dress turns blue.
We don't want a blue
You
dress.
don't want a blue dress. And you got to be careful because some dresses are off white.
Oh, yeah.
Hers was white.
Whenever we were in the really crazy, like doing 50 weddings a year, sometimes I would even write on their contract. This is when we had paper contracts too, like white dress or off-white dress or, like dusty rose or whatever color it was, champagne, just so that I would know when we go to edit it, because we weren't always editing quickly after the wedding. So that was one thing. It was like, you remember what color her dress was supposed to be?
I'm going to show you one more thing before we get off here of how powerful masks can be. Let's see where I put it. Sorry,
Yeah.
the Zoom
The Zoom stuff moves.
Zoom
Yeah,
stuff.
there you go.
There we go. I can see it now. Okay, now where is? Hang on for 1 second.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for, I thought I had it open, ready to go, but apparently we closed it.
Oh.
Just QuickTime.
Oh, I don't know.
Downloads. Sorry, you want to fill the dead air, Amber?
Uh,
Here it is. Here it is. I found it. I found it.
I was gonna say, I don't have anything prepared.
So this is a wedding we shot,
Oh, yeah.
and this is just some examples of the mask. Get this Zoom thing out of the way.
I don't think you can. Yeah, there you go.
So this is the final shot of, sorry, get that out of the way. This is the final shot of the handoff between the father,
Look at the bottom. Yeah.
yep, and the bride, and you have these beautiful lights coming in through the window. This is straight out of camera.
Stop moving it around. Just leave it alone.
And if you see, you're not only seeing the color grade, but that was a little animation I put on there. But you saw Amber and I, Amber's tripod is in the bottom right, and I'm up here on the left, and then you see me walking across the front, going over to my tripod here, which I will set up and then go to another one in the background. So by using mask, I'm able to take a shot that I had earlier when I first started recording. We weren't up there before the ceremony. So I was able to mask that out. And if you let me pause it here, these are all the masks that I used to get that shot. So I wanted to expose for these beautiful glass stained glass windows, and I wanted my lights to actually not be overexposed and overblown, so I masked those out. This is much easier to do when it's a static shot. It's way more difficult to do if the shot is moving. You can, it's just a lot harder. And then I have I found a shot of just the people standing there, and I froze that frame and imported it into this on top of this video, and then just paused it and did another mask. And so then once you add everything back, let it play out, you get back to this. So there's no
Garrette walking across.
Garrette walking
We call that
across.
Sasquatch sightings.
There's no photographer, and there's no Amber over there either. And it just looks really well. I was able to control the exposure of, just those lights.
Wow, that's a pretty, not a beautiful image.
Yeah, that's what I got. Okay, so it's yellow because I was in a hurry. I didn't set my white balance right, as per usual. I'm horrible at white balance, but I figure it out eventually, right?
Well, sometimes we're just barely making it. Go to stop share. There you go.
There we go.
All right. So, I mean, I guess what do you want to say is most of it is just playing around with it and figuring out what you want the style to be in that.
Right. And then once you get the color grade, like the white balance corrected, and you get it to where, you have that, maybe you put a vignette on there, maybe you added some more saturation like we did at the very first part where we took the orange out of that lady wearing the dress. We could have even changed her dress orange color to blue so she matches everybody else. We could have done that too. So there's no end to how deep down the rabbit hole you can go. But once you get all that done and you have a really nice image, then you can decide, okay, now what kind of feel, what kind of look, what kind, you're like a filmmaker that really inspires you, that you want to emulate. Maybe you don't want the blacks to be crushed. Maybe you want those soft blacks, so you want to pull those up. Then you can, at that point, you can start deciding how you want it to look and how the image grading fits your client. If your client is just crazy fun and they're partying, they're having a great time, I'm probably going to grade that not with a whole lot of style, but if somebody who's doing like a very maybe laid back and simple small wedding out behind their house in a grass field, very boho kind of style, I'm gonna make the colors a little softer. I'm gonna make the contrast a little softer because it matches the feel of that
But for the
wedding.
crazy fun party one, would you maybe pump it up more?
Yeah,
boost it
and
more.
most of my weddings, no matter what I do in the beginning, when I get to the party, like to end all of my weddings on a fun party. I usually start slowly pushing up the colors and the contrast to make it more vibrant and more alive and more like I want you to
I did
feel like you're there. Yeah.
It's all goes to, it all makes it part of the final experience.
Yeah.
And so like it is good that you don't always have like a this is good because of XYZ. It's good because of all the things you've done, you know.
And one thing I cannot say this loud enough, and I say it all the time, almost in every class I teach. This is your art. Yes, that you've been hired, but you've been hired because you're an artist. They've seen previous work. More than likely, they've seen your work. If they hired you without seeing your work, that's a really lucky, or maybe it's your friend or something. I don't know. But they've seen your work. They trust you as the artist. So this is yes, it's your job, but to make it enjoyable, you also have to remember it's your art. So maybe the way that I just colored something, I can't explain exactly technically why I did that. I just use my emotion and my heart, and I look at the image and I'm like, that's how it's supposed to look. That makes me feel like I felt when I was at the wedding. That makes me feel the feels that I want to feel when it makes me feel the feelings I want my viewers to feel. So maybe you can't write it down. It's like she just said, this is why I did that color grade XYZ 1, 2, 3. It just feels right. And art is very subjective, and you'll find, I know a lot of people that will have like all of their wedding films will have basically the same color grade, and that works for them, and that's great. For us, one's going to be different from the next because I like mine to match the wedding I'm doing, and plus I get bored quickly, ADHD, so I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, I got to switch it up, got to change it. But if you keep in mind that you are the artist, you're the editor, and it's your art, don't worry about why I'm doing this. Grade it, look at it, and if you're happy with it, then move forward.
Well done. I don't think I have any more to say beyond that. Derek, do we have any questions today? I know this was a deep one, but here we are. We're at the end.
Yeah, that was a deep one, but I think that's the one that you have to let it sink in. No questions. That's one, especially when you go into timelines, it's like you soak it in, you watch it a couple times. You don't know what to ask because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. So if you get to that point, just shoot us a message. We are, because sometimes you just have to pull it up next to your own, because even you still do that. We don't know everything. So you pull it up next to yours and step by step see and mess around and find out.
And
Find
there
out
there
what's the
are
best.
yeah, get on YouTube and like the event space. There's a bazillion different videos of the technicalities of the measurements of light and how I'm just not that guy. I like I said, I edit, I shoot, I edit, and I deliver on what my heart tells me to. So that's where all of my decisions come from, is my heart. So I
That's
may
the
have
best way. When
Yeah.
you go outside of your comfort zone and try to look, there's tech people, there's people who are more from emotion and from the heart. And it's like, look, and there's the people that are a mix of both. So I think you got to stay in your wheelhouse. I'm the same way. It's like I'm not going to talk to you about inverse square and all these rules and all. It's like I play around. I know what I like. I know how to get there. I
Mhm.
was never good at math. I was never good at equations. So you can talk to me about that stuff all day, and it's not gonna register. So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Derek. We appreciate being back on the B&H event space. It's so
absolutely
exciting.
always great having you guys on.
Two
Always
more
great.
left
two
for
It's
more.
of
one.
this.
I know it's been a great series so far. It's been a very comprehensive. I love series like this where you can kind of just piece it together. I feel like we're so locked into short form content these days, and you have to get everything all done in one class.
Yeah.
And then you just cut out all the details, and it's better sometimes to just stretch it out a little bit and
Yeah.
really give each topic its
Yeah.
due. So
We
huge
really
thank you to
appreciate
you
that.
guys.
Yeah, because it is, there's so much about filmmaking that is just like, I mean, we could continue on with this for hours more probably, but we don't have that kind of time today, and our dogs are probably missing us. So
There you go. Well, we'll
let's
let you guys
get out.
get back to the dogs, and we'll let all of our viewers get back to watching this again and taking their notes. You guys know where to find them, and of course, you can find them for a couple more parts that are going to round this series out. So stay tuned for that and check up all that we have to offer on the Event Space website. That'll have everything you guys are looking for. So huge thank you once again to Garrette and Amber, of course, Sony for hosting today's event and this series, and all of our viewers out there. Another edition of the B&H Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.